Might as well do a real-time diamond painting while I rant about this Brian Laundrie bullshit. Let's hypothetically say Brian Laundrie is not guilty. Let's say that he is a mentally disturbed individual that does not have the cognitive ability, not necessarily to know right from wrong, because we know that he knows right from wrong. However, what if he doesn't really comprehend that running in the opposite, I have to read all this, running in the opposite direction is not going to help him. His parents are not helping the situation. Where are his parents? Why has his parents, I don't care how much your attorney, if you genuinely believe that your son is innocent of all charges, or that he is in some form of danger for being set up for what happened, either fucking way, turn your kid in. I don't care that you have an attorney. Now, this attorney is a family attorney. He's a real estate attorney. People are arguing like, oh, his statute or his status in the state of Florida means nothing because he's an attorney out of Florida. Let me explain something to you. An attorney is an attorney. If I have an attorney and something happens to me out of state, I can retain that attorney out of state. Now, that attorney, if he doesn't have the ability to practice law in that state, can consult with another state, with another attorney that is licensed to work in that state. But you can hire any attorney from any state to invoke your Fifth Amendment right. The attorney does not need to be a criminal attorney, civil attorney. An attorney is an attorney. They all take the same exam. Some specialize in certain things, but we'll use the example of a doctor. If a doctor is in a situation where there is someone who is in dire need of emergency services, and let's just say this doctor is a neurologist, well, guess what this doctor can do? He can still fucking save a person's life, because at the end of the day, he learned medicine, basic internal medicine, to have the basic knowledge of the human anatomy in order to save a life. Okay? Lawyers are pretty much the same way. Each state has its own law, and let's keep in mind, when this shit hits the fan, if they find Brian Laundrie, he's not going to suffer the consequences in the state of Florida because the crime was not committed in the state of Florida. He's going to be extradited to the state of Wyoming, where Gabby was found, where most likely Gabby was killed. Now, whether it was by him or not by him, whether it was an accident, whether they were arguing and he accidentally pushed her a little too hard, whatever the case may be, he's going to need an attorney in the state of Wyoming. So, for the one podcast that keeps saying she doesn't understand how this is going on, she doesn't understand how they had the van, but blah, 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 and they haven't charged him, and he stole her van. They did not charge him with stealing her van because he's a registered driver of the van. He has a registration card with his name on it to that van. He is on the insurance policy to that van. Despite the fact that Gabby may have bought that van, signed all the paperwork, and technically it is her van on paper, he still had consent via the registration and the insurance to use that van as he wished. Very simple knowledge that everybody should know, but apparently some people are just so fucking confused and can't bother to Google simple information. He did not steal a van. Well, he stole the van, but he didn't actually legally steal the van, as per registration and insurance documentation. If he is on these policies and he is a registered driver of the vehicle in which he has a registration card with his name on it, you cannot charge him with stealing a van, which is why the feds did not charge him with that. They charged him with unauthorized use of Gabby's credit card, because Gabby's credit card is indeed under Gabby's name. He does not have access to that card. He does not have a card of his own for that account, and he is not listed as a person that can access that account. So therefore they charged him with credit card fraud. The only reason why they're charging him with the most bullshit of bullshit fucking charges is to get him in. Period. When they get him, he's lawyered up. They can't ask him shit. Point blank, period. He's going to plead the fifth and request his attorney to be present, which we all have the right. And for everyone saying he must be guilty because he lawyered up. First of all, his parents got him that lawyer. The family lawyer has been a family lawyer for a very long time. So they've always had this attorney. He didn't lawyer up. They just called the attorney and said, well, what the fuck do we do? And the attorney, I guess, gave him the worst fucking, the worst possible fucking advice ever and said, run. Now, again, back to the hypothetical of, what if Brian didn't do anything? What if he's just scared shitless because he knows he was the last person with her, and he's gonna have his balls nailed to the wall because there was a physical altercation on August 12th in which it was documented on body cam that both of them basically admitted to hitting each other. Now, here's my gripe with certain people. Okay, I'm a woman. I was born a woman. I understand that women suffer greatly, immensely, in regards to domestic violence. But let's not pretend like women can't partake in domestic violence as well. There is a thing called mutual domestic violence. Now, what is mutual domestic violence? You push each other's buttons to the point where one cracks, hits the other one, and then the other one hits back. Gabby openly admitted to hitting Brian back. She's not this poor, defenseless girl that doesn't know how to defend herself. I'm pretty sure the bitch can smack him into the next century. And I don't mean bitch in a derogatory way. That's just how I speak. She's gone. She was a beautiful woman. She had so much to live for and so much to offer this world. And I do not mean that in any form of disrespect. With that being said, she didn't seem like the type of girl that was just going to sit there and get beat on and not beat back. Now, that is the most toxic situation when you have two individuals that are willing to partake in domestic violence. Been there, done that. I've had horrible relationships. I'm lucky now that I don't, but I've had horrible relationships. And I've been in a situation where it was mutual domestic violence. I'd push his buttons, he'd push mine. All hell would break loose and half the shit in the house would break. It's not healthy. It makes you feel inferior. It makes you feel like everything is your fault, which is why she took blame that day on the stop and didn't want to tell the police. Yeah, he's been beating the shit out of me. Because half of her is like, well, I hit him too, though, so will I get in trouble? Technically, no, you're defending yourself. You wouldn't have gotten in trouble. I will say this. Had the police in Moab, Utah, arrested Gabby that day, I'm going to say that I'm 90% sure that if that would have happened and she would have been arrested, she would have had her trip cut real short. Real short. Her parents would have been like, nope, you're coming home. Now we're at a point where you're far away. We don't know what's going on. We don't know what can happen. You're coming home. And if she refused, I'm pretty sure her dad or her stepdad would have hopped on the next plane and gotten over there. I'm not blaming the police officers. Apparently the cops knew that there was some kind of altercation prior where he was hitting her. But again, when you receive calls from eyewitnesses stating things, police officers have to take that with a grain of salt, because the way that we humans process certain things, and when you see a man and a woman arguing, by default we're going to assume that the woman is the victim and the guy is the aggressor. Now, what if the case is that they were both the aggressor? Arguments, attitudes. She had said that she had OCD, but everybody's saying she really didn't. And I get the whole, oh my god, I have OCD. There are certain things that I have to have in a certain way, simply because it's just my brain can't function with it any other way. I wouldn't consider that OCD. I'm just considering that's a little quirk. But she's a young girl. She's gonna lump in, oh, I have OCD. Da, 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 da. What she had was intense anxiety, was in a very toxic relationship, didn't really know how to get out of it because she loved the individual. And she was hoping that perhaps fighting with him enough would eventually get to the point where he would give the fuck up. But the problem is, Doesn't seem like he gave the fuck up. It seems like he may have made the world's worst decision and ruined his life in the process. And now he's running like a coward. When news broke of them saying, oh, he's missing. There's a missing persons report out for Brian Laundrie. It's like, who in their right mind would consider this individual missing? Unless you look at it from the perspective of, he told his family he was going somewhere, he's not there, he's going through a lot. At this point, he might be dead. He might be dead. There's a good possibility that he offed himself. People are saying, oh, he's a coward, he wouldn't do that. Personal experience time. I don't really think you guys can see them all that well, but if you can't, it's alright. I can all my socials are in the description of the video, so you can add me somewhere if you would like to see them. I tried to kill myself 2 years ago. I took a bunch of pills and I cut my wrists. I reached my breaking point. Now, I had always thought about it. I always had inclinations and suicidal ideation, but I didn't go through with it because of the people around me. I didn't want to hurt the people around me. Some dramatic shit happened in the year that I tried to kill myself that really pushed me over the edge. And many people around me said, we never thought you'd do that. We never thought that you'd get to that point because of your personality, of the way that you are. The thing is, you don't really know people. You don't really know what's in someone's head. You don't really know the thoughts that they're having, whether it be suicidal, homicidal, or otherwise. We have no idea what Brian's mental state is. The hiker, I believe he was in North Carolina, the hiker that says that he saw him at the mouth of the Appalachian Trail, that he was driving a white Ford, and then he was asking to go to California, and that he and his girlfriend had a fight, and that he was going to stay on this road and try to get to California. That seems to me, and Nancy Grace had a moment where she heard this, and somebody reacted to the statement from the hiker that Brian told him allegedly, and somebody was like, well, it sounds like he's having a psychotic break. Nancy Grace then lost her mind and said, well, what evidence do you have for that? What? The evidence that here is a young man who presumably has the mental capacity of whatever age he is, 23, 24, and he's literally saying he needs to get to California to go see his girlfriend because they had a fight and he doesn't want to get on I-40, which is the main road to the west. And he's going to stay on this backwards country road where he is confident that it's going to take him to California. That, to me, if this encounter is correct, and it's being reiterated factually, that seems to me like someone who is having a psychotic break, or a break with reality. If you don't want to call it a psychotic break, you can call it a break with reality. They are not aware of the fact that some backwards county fucking road that's probably half dirt out in the middle of fucking nowhere is not going to get you to California. It's just simply not. You're probably just going to end up in a circle and end up on a major highway anyway. There is so much around this case of Brian Laundrie that I'm just going to vent about it because it's stuck in my head. There are so many things that I'm thinking about. There are so many what ifs that are up in the air. There are so many people taking guesses at what could have happened. Where did he go? The parents have a bunker there in the house. The parents don't have a bunker there. They took a kayak to Fort DeSoto. They didn't take a kayak to Fort DeSoto. There are so many variables up in the air that at this point, everything that we all say about this case is nothing but pure speculation. The sooner we realize that, the better. The only facts we know, according to the parents, are he was there, said he was going hiking, never came back. Said he was going to the Carlton Reserve. That son of a bitch in 25,000 acre reserve has been searched and researched and re-researched. And nothing. They didn't find a single pile of human feces where he used the bathroom. That motherfucker was never there. They planted the Mustang at the reserve, hoping that eventually the cops would find it, but not realizing that maybe you should have looked at the ordinance for the city. It takes 5 days for them to even put a warning sticker on your vehicle when they consider it abandoned. According to documents, though, police didn't wait 5 days. This happened 2 or 3 days after when the Mustang allegedly got there. Then the parents are telling everybody, well, my son's in there, my son's in there, my son's in there, and you bring back the vehicle in which he would need to come back home. He's got no cell phone. He left the cell phone at home unless he's got the burner on him. He's got no form of communication. In the Carlton Reserve, from what I've heard, there's no fucking cell service anyway. So, what do you do? Do you keep searching this reserve? Do you start... There are plenty of hikers that are on the Appalachian Trail at this point. Post up a couple of signs at some of the main entrances into the Appalachian Trail in the north and the south, and somewhere in the middle. Do yourself and everybody a favor by asking the public to help. The FBI is both the best and the worst thing on planet Earth. They keep everything so close to the chest. In a case like this, you need the public. Everybody's got a camera. You need the public. Hell, you would have never been able to find Gabby as quick as you did had those people not captured her van on the side of the road at the Teton Grand National Teton Park, whatever the hell it's called. Okay? Point blank. If it was not for citizen journalism, which they didn't tend to be citizen journalists, Gabby would have been found way down the road. Okay? The FBI needs to start saying what it is that they know, what it is that they don't know, because at this point, if you keep hiding shit, you're never going to find this fucker. You need to put his information out there. You need to put his talent out there. You need to put where he is most likely going to be. So that, yes, people still hike the Appalachian Trail in the winter. It's a thing, okay? They're winter trekkers. That's what they do. Their inclination, their survival skills are honed to be able to survive a winter on the trail. Obviously not the entire winter. People do not go out there for the whole winter, but a couple of weeks here and there. Do we honestly think that Brian has not changed his appearance to such a degree where he's not going to look like himself? Again, I said before in my last video, he has the most nondescript look ever. Mediocre height, thin, slim build, not muscular, bald and a beard. I can think of about 50 dudes that fit that description. Most nondescript human being on planet fucking Earth. Okay? With that being said, he drove all the way from Wyoming, where he allegedly killed his fiancée. Drove all the way to Wyoming. Had to stop along the way to get gas. Was using Gabby's card. Whether because he had no money of his own and his parents didn't know what were going on at that point and he had no ability to get money from them to travel back home, or because he was trying to make it seem like Gabby was still alive. We don't know that, and until we catch him, we won't know. And even after we catch him, he's going to pull a Chris Watts, and he's not going to say shit of value. He's going to repeat whatever the fuck it is the investigators are saying to him, and he's going to go along with it. They're going to cut him a deal, and that's it. What are you going to do? Everybody that's talking about this case, again, we're all speculating. We're all sitting here wondering, well, what if? How come? Why is this not happening? Da-da-da-da-da-da. Everybody wants to blame Northport Police. Northport Police are a tiny police department. This is the most infuriating aspect about this entire fucking thing for me. Okay? Everybody wants to assume that police officers across the country are these high-tech, militarized, fucking Terminator robots that have the ability to do everything all at once. They got drones, they got Humvees, they got heat-seeking missiles. Guess what? 90% of the police departments in this country are underfunded, understaffed, and do not have the ability to conduct a search of this magnitude for such a high-profile individual. You are asking a small town, that's like my town. I live in New Jersey. I live in Cliffside Park. My police station is not used to dealing with giant manhunts because somebody decided to murder their fiance and hide out in their parents' house. If this happens in my neighborhood, I cannot expect my police department to do everything by the book, follow every letter, and then find success in finding someone. They are a small, under-equipped, understaffed, and undertrained police department. They do not have the ability to do these things, which is why Northport Police dragged in 6 different agencies from across the state of Florida, including the state police, because small town police departments, Northport does not have this immense crime rate. It's now gone up a little bit, but it's a small town. Stop asking police officers in small towns who are not equipped to deal with things like this, because this does not happen in their jurisdiction. They are not magicians. They are human beings with equipment that are given to them by the city. If they do not have the adequate equipment, what the fuck do you expect them to do? The same thing with the Moab police. Stop blaming the Moab police. The Moab police showed up with a report of a guy hitting a girl, but when they show up, he's all marked up. She's got 1 scratch on her cheek, which if you're fighting with somebody and you mark them up, it's not a shock that she's going to have a mark on her cheek too. Now the question is, who started that argument? Who started that physical altercation? Was it him or was it her? Ultimately, they both hit each other. So here are these police officers. She's openly admitting, now obviously she's an abuse victim. She's having, I forget the term, reactive abuse or something like that, where she's taking the blame herself. She's saying, I'm the instigator. I did it. I made him hit the curb. I pulled his arm. I hit his arm. She's taking the blame. And he's sitting there all smiles, like nothing's going on. He's a narcissist. He's an abusive human being. But at the same time, we have to look at the victim. I'm not victim blaming here. I'm not saying that she deserved to die. It's heartbreaking. It's heart-wrenching. And that's why it's captivated the world. Because it makes no sense to have this beautiful young woman who just wanted to have the ability to travel the country, see beautiful locations with someone who she thought she was going to spend the rest of her life with because they were engaged at some point. And he murders her, allegedly. It's horrifying. But at the same time, let's take into account that perhaps she wasn't this innocent girl that just was murdered senselessly. I mean, obviously she was murdered senselessly. She didn't deserve to die. But can we look at the character of the victim? Can we look at perhaps them being stuck together in this confined area, both having mental issues, both having anxiety issues, and both having issues with each other? And I'll get into my theory about what really pissed Brian off in a different video. But all of those constraints will drive you nuts. It will make you go to a breaking point. Obviously, his breaking point was a little too fucking much. His breaking point should have been, you know what, Gabby? Take your fucking van, take your fucking blog, shove it up your fucking twat. I'm leaving. He would have been an asshole, but he wouldn't have been a criminal. It's not a crime to break up with somebody and call him a cunt. Just saying. But he didn't do that. We're never going to know what happened. We're never going to know the circumstances that led up to the demise of Gabby Petito. And it's so sad because I would want to know what led up to that so that we can have the full picture of trying to understand how these things happen so that we look out for them. A lot of times people can't recognize domestic abuse because you've never lived it. When you live it, you can see it a mile away. I have moments where my boyfriend says something to me, and I hate to use the word triggered because I'm not a millennial and things don't offend me that easily, but it brings back certain memories where I have to actively fight them and say, wait. This is coming from a completely different person in a completely different context, and it's being told in a manner, in a way that is not disrespectful, it is not hurtful, and I'm not being abused. I have to constantly remind myself of these things because I'm so fearful. of going back. I believe Gabby was deeply in love with Brian. I believe in her mind, for as off as he may have been, that was her partner. That's who she felt alive with. And the fact that he took that from her and has destroyed her family, not only because he allegedly is the one responsible for her demise, but his actions afterwards. If you loved Gabby to any degree, if you loved that young woman and her passion and her demeanor and her smile and everything about her was captivating, if you loved that about her, your first thing, you shouldn't have went to your sister's house, you shouldn't have went to your mama's house, you shouldn't have went nowhere. You know where you should have gone? To the fucking police. And from there you should have been, can y'all please call Joseph Petito and Nicole Schmidt, and I forgot the stepdad's name and the stepmom's name, but bring in the whole fucking family because everybody gets along. And here's what happened. Just tell your story. Tell your story. They seem like reasonable enough people that if you actually were to be honest, Brian, from the get, not now, because now Gabby's father Joe just looks like he wants to annihilate Brian off planet Earth, which I think 90% of us do. At the end of the day, to close this video out because it's getting super fucking long, Brian's on the Appalachian Trail, or he's dead. And I have a very small, very, very minute idea that he perhaps had nothing to do with this, and he is just terrified. Perhaps he saw something. Perhaps he my inclination is perhaps she offed herself. Emotional people in emotional states of mind have a breaking point, and they can hurt themselves. It's a crime of passion against yourself. You have a moment where you just break and you say fuck it, and that's it. Again, you don't know that mindset, and you don't know what it takes to be in that state of mind where you are absolutely prepared to die and you are physically taking your life, whether it be pills, slitting your wrists, whatever. That mindset, that dark place, the thoughts that cross your mind, they're irreversible. There's nothing anyone can tell you at that moment in time that's going to change the fact that you no longer want to live. Maybe she had it. Maybe she had it with him. Maybe she had it with the trip. She wasn't sleeping. She wasn't eating correctly. All of these things are factors that nobody is taking into consideration. Big part of me wants to believe absolutely he fucking did it. He's a prick. He's a narcissistic cunt. And he absolutely murdered her because he was losing control. She no longer wanted to be with him. If that's the case, that's why it happened. They probably had a giant argument. She said, you know what? I'm done. I'm going home. I don't want anything to do with you. And he's scared of abandonment. He's a mama's boy. So he offed her. If he did, that's how it happened. It had something to do with their relationship where he thought he was going to lose complete control of her. And he had the mentality of, well, if I can't have you, nobody can. Now understand, in the area where Gabby was found, there were 2 other people that were found dead. There is something about the west side of America and federal national parks that create monsters. People go out there to do the worst of the worst, and I don't know why. But anyway, this video is done. Rant over. See you guys later. Peace.